Okay, well, I will call this meeting to order. It's 7:02 p.m. We have a meeting. First thing on the agenda is reserved for any changes to the agenda items. Do we have anything, Kathy Ann? Are we going to change number 5?
I think that we given our small quorum of committee members tonight, it might be a good idea to continue discussion of 5 to the next meeting.
Okay, I agree with that. Do we need to vote on it, or we just need
No.
to agree?
No, not necessarily.
Okay.
No action.
Anybody have a problem?
I just have a question.
Sure.
How come mobile food units wasn't on there?
So these were the ones that I were, there's actually going to be a much longer list than this.
Oh, okay.
These were the ones that I had intention of having actual text for by this evening. So the list will probably change by July 18th because I'll have had more time. So that the idea tonight was to put the ones on here that I had text associated with it. But the mobile food units haven't dropped off the list. They're just, I wasn't going to have any language for you tonight on that one.
So is it a priority in terms of, I'm just thinking it's summer. It probably wouldn't happen by summer, but it just seems like I feel like there's such a revenue source if we can if we can collect the local option tax on them, just try to move them along.
Yeah. So mobile food units, just quickly as a little bit of reference, they're sort of governed under 2 things. They're governed under our development regulations. They're also administered in part under the peddler's ordinance. So there is something in place now with the peddler's ordinance, which is also undergoing some revisions. So they are allowed right now. I think the goal for us is to make them, make the permitting process quite a bit easier and at least more clear. Right now, there's not a consistent set of standards, so what applies to a mobile food unit at one place doesn't necessarily apply to them parked in another place, so we're trying to work on some consistency. But it doesn't mean that they cannot operate now, so they can still operate. Yeah.
Thank you.
There's not any other changes? Any comments or questions from the public not on the agenda? All right, then we'll move to number 4, which is a request for supplemental amendments to the Colchester Development Regulations. There's a request, SR 2301 of Benjamin, and sorry, I'm not going to be able to pronounce your last name, to rezone a single parcel of land here in Colchester from R2 to GD4. This would be the opportunity for you to come forward, and we wanted to discuss your request.
Here or here? Which?
The bar,
This one?
yes, and just state your name.
Benjamin Ng, NG. I had to buy a vowel to make an ING sound.
So you want to tell us a little bit about your request?
Yes. I prepared originally a kind of one-page request form. I assume you have read it, so I don't need to repeat that detail. Okay, great.
Yep.
Before I start, I just want to thank you all. It's the evening time. You're taking the time to hear my request and give me the opportunity. I appreciate that. And also, I want to acknowledge my wife, Christine, my son, David. They are my valued support team, so I just cover the bases. Now, I think if in that script there is a map of the zoning, I think that would be helpful as a reference. Right, I think that's the one. Okay, that if move up a little bit, that would be perfect. I know at this moment, this parcel that I was referring to, which I acquired recently, belong to using your 2019 city plan or town plan, is in the Clay Point area, which is rural, residential, the low density area. But also the one I have interest in actually is, I think on page 18 of your plan, and that is the exit 17, which is interstate exit 17 neighborhood area, which you have designated to make it into a village mixed use, and have commented that it hasn't been able to develop location, whatever economic reasons. And so I know for every city, the interstate exit areas are valuable resources for city development. And you have only two, exit 16, which is well developed, and exit 17. The interesting part is usually in most exit area, both sides, for example, exit 16, also intersects Route 2, as in this case. And both sides of Route 2 are zoned that kind of development region. But in this case, only the north side, as you will see. And I did some homework, and I realized that at some point, Route 2 went through the narrow street above Route 2. It's called Jasper Mine Road. So that was the, you probably know more, that was the old Route 2. And then at some time, a more, I guess, direct Route 2 came about. So it's lower now. It touches this property that we are talking about. And I think that the key question for I guess for the planning committee and for the city is how best should this parcel be part of the exit 17 area planned, or should remain as the Clay Point residential rural planned? And I want to suggest that to help and develop this area, it makes sense to include this parcel that we are talking about, and maybe even those parcels on the east. So there is a continuous area, both north and south of Highway 2, that can be more area to develop. And my proposal actually is that looking to the future and knowing city of Colchester and also the state of Vermont want to have green development. In fact, I was looking at the I guess page 18, where exit 17 area, they actually was mentioned, I'm quoting page 18, that to be developed as a village mixed-use area to consider opportunities for development such as alternative energy facilities that would not negatively impact the economic growth opportunities in the neighborhood area. So my thought for that parcel of land is, and looking to the future, to build a EV supercharge station there. And you have many rules about gasoline station had to be within 3,000 feet from the exit, and this will fit basically if it can be rezoned as the exit 17 region, which is GD4, which will allow it. And so the proposal here is that for the planning committee to, at some point, to look at this and to see for the future development of this part, exit 17, if that will help and kind of kickstart the development with such a project. And not only the station, but also the plan is to have a solar farm, to have sufficient energy to support and serve the supercharge station. So again, as you're mentioning, the alternative energy facility, both the superstation and the solar farm would work towards that renewable energy kind of efforts for the state and for the city. So basically, that is the quick summary of the reason behind the request. I know that there's a staff from, I guess, your planning committee. I mean, there's a write-up already and they refer to a few things. One is that if we only look at Clay Point neighborhood, it may not fit because it's low density, rural, residential, and my point is maybe we should have a fresh look now that the Route 2 has moved, and whether we should look at another kind of a way to see if it will help making that area, exit 17, to further develop. And I know there was another concern, or there was an accident recently, I think last year, a lady unfortunately come out on one of the spur and got hit, and it's really unfortunate. And the staff was saying, under that scenario, maybe the Vermont Transportation Department may not want to have even more spurs coming out. So this is contradictory in the sense that if we are going to develop this part, there will be more traffic, there will be more coming in, going out, access roads from retail, from whatever. So unless it's an unfortunate incident, and I don't know what was the reason, how it happened, but that is sometimes maybe lead to a lower speed. I don't know what, that there may be other ways to address it and not kind of stop development. I said, now because of that, just don't do anything. And also, I think another concern, not just from memory, I think you're right, that the staff is saying that it's quite busy already. You have many projects, 46 and all the other things this year, and will not have time to look into this. And so my suggestion is, if that's the case, I don't mind next year or to kind of, if you planning committee feel that it's worth looking into and to schedule something in the near future, next year, I can wait. There's no special kind of, in fact, to really do such a project with all the permitting requirements, this is a 3 to 5 year exercise to go through the local level, the state level. I have no idea whether it requires federal level. And from the date that you say, okay, it's rezoned, you can go ahead. And that's all I could think of. I mean, but I'm open to, if you have questions, I'm happy to respond the best I can.
Okay. So Kathy, do you want to go through the staff notes, or
Sure.
do you want us to
I'm
dive
happy to.
in?
I also wanted to just give you a little bit of supplemental information that's come up since I worked on the staff notes here. And I don't know if this is of any interest, and I'm happy to follow up in a separate email or phone call. But as I was talking through about this project with some other people in our administration, I was reminded that VTrans, so they monitor our state roads, is working on a park and ride immediately in the area. And I think it's just across. I think it might even be on Jasper Mine. Does that sound right, Pam?
A parking?
A park and ride, so like a spot where people can carpool from. And
Oh, I see, okay.
yeah, and we reached out to them to ask them if they have any interest. So they're on sort of that other side of the road where there's already some
Right.
of the industrial and commercial uses, and asked them if they had any interest in starting any private partnerships, public-private partnerships, as a common sense location for this. And the early response from just one person, again, this is very, very premature,
Yes.
was that they have not done that to date. But if there is potentially someone interested, they're willing to explore the idea of a public-private partnership at a facility that is already in the design phase, or not design phase, I think they're in the scoping phase. So what that means is they're starting to look at what the costs would be, if they have to acquire any land, what does the engineering look like, how much does it cost. So the state of Vermont division of the Agency of Transportation is starting to look at that. I believe if you go through our select board meetings, there was an update on that this year. I'm sorry to put you on the spot, Pam. Last year, okay. So if you found your way around our website, and I'm happy to send it to you as well, there is a presentation about what their general idea
Sure.
is, and we could make some connections for you. Again, I don't mean to
Oh, no,
sort of
that's news, yeah.
override the discussion here, but I do want to say that there's potentially an option that could meet some of the, these energy goals, some of the, serving the population that needs these chargers, acknowledging that the interstate is a place where they would be extremely popular and needed, but potentially giving a different location, and most importantly, a controlled access point. I think what I didn't necessarily say as clearly as I could have in the staff notes is that while there was, one recent fatality, this is a high crash location. The state has identified it as a high crash location, and there is a study that is ongoing right now. I'm not directly involved, so I don't know all the details, but there is a study that is looking at what measures can be undertaken to reduce that. I don't know if it's reduced speeds. I don't know if it's any sort of road slimming or any sort of physical adjustments. But in light of that accident from last year, that work was started. And it's my understanding that until that work is complete, until they've got a good understanding of what that means, they don't want to make any situations worse by creating more turning points. The state of Vermont is always very hesitant to give curb accesses from, they consider this one of their highest levels of highways, and a limited access highway. And they're always very cautious to do that. So just to address the traffic piece there, that's sort of the information that I have. The other concern that we didn't really talk about too much is just the general idea of avoiding any sort of spot zoning. Anytime you change the zoning on just a single parcel, you open yourself up to considering whether that's the case, especially when you have a parcel that is surrounded on at least 3 sides by a different zoning. And so any look at zoning in that area shouldn't look at just a single parcel. I know we talk about that fairly often here. But I I think if you do have any considerations of that, I would keep just those 3 points in mind. But again, with that new information, if there is any interest at all in connecting with the Vermont Agency of Transportation, I am happy to make those connections.
That would be, if you can email me.
Yeah,
or
I don't know
whatever
the
contact.
exact location. I'm pretty sure, does anybody in the room know?
No, I haven't heard about it before.
Yeah, so they're looking at a park and ride. So I can find the information on
Okay.
that, what's known already. They're in, I don't want to say early stages of development, but if it's a 1 to 10, they're probably at a 4
Sure.
in terms of the work there.
Yeah, I would love to make
Yeah.
that connection and have better
Yeah.
understand what they are trying to do, and hopefully through that, maybe they can understand what, and maybe there's a way, it won't hurt to build bridges and connections and
Yeah, from what I understand, they've never done this, but they are intrigued by the idea. So the state manages quite a few facilities that do nothing more than allow you to park and get into somebody else's shared vehicle. And I know that there's quite a few that have like a basic 120 outlet, a level 1 charging. But they may consider a different level.
Sure. And that technology is changing.
Yeah.
And now it takes maybe half an hour, who knows? One
Yeah.
day it may take 5 minutes. That would be great. So I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to that.
So not to step on the presentation that you've made here, but I do want to just let you know that
Sure.
that has some potential.
Great, thank you. And you will send me that email
I
for?
will.
Okay, appreciate it.
Okay, got some discussions here. You want to start, Sarita? Go ahead.
Do you want someone else to start, since I always?
It doesn't matter. I think we're all going to be talking on this one.
Okay. So I just want to tell you how innovative and forward-thinking your idea is, you know.
Thank you.
It really is, you know, I'm a member of the caucus, climate caucus in Montpelier, and, you know, transportation and thermal energy are the biggest contributors to greenhouse gases, and this is very forward-thinking. So, you know, I just think I'm very supportive of pursuing it. You know, I mean, it may be that there are too many challenges, but I certainly would support, I think it's number B, you know, when we talk about what the options are. I wouldn't support just saying no. You know, that we could, like when the town plan, you know, just because I think that definitely has, when we update that as well. But I would, without taking an inordinate amount of staff time or finances or anything, I would absolutely want to pursue this, you know, for you, because, you know, it's at exit 17. People, it's like getting off. Eventually, people are going to have to charge their EVs.
Right.
You know,
It's a good location.
yeah, but I mean, there's going to have to be a lot of these across the state.
Correct.
I'm assuming it's a level 3. You'll be putting in level 3 chargers, or
In fact, I've been looking into, I think, given the time frame, because we are talking about rezoning and then the 3-5 years of planning, permitting, I have a feeling it will go beyond that.
it will go beyond.
Right.
Yeah, the technology.
Right, because I think we may see that it will be as convenient. Well, right now, gas refueling may take 2 minutes, and this
Yeah.
may be a 5-minute, but it will be much better than today. So I think it's moving to that direction, and I'm looking at. Thank God we have sufficient land. So if need to be 1 megawatt or 2 megawatt, we'll make it happen so that it has sufficient energy to support it.
Yeah.
And when the winter comes, then we may have to purchase electricity from the grid, but whatever. But I think that the goal is we would like to make it work, and would be good employment opportunity, tax-based opportunity. It's good development, and it's green. And I think it's something that.
How far is it from exit 17. Do you know how many miles it is?
I mean, no, we are at
You're at exit?
exit 17.
Oh, okay. I
So
was
that's the
trying
reason.
to-
I think
Right, so-
Yeah, I
the
thought
original
that-
memo had a footage in it, no?
Right, it's just off the exit, the west exit. Probably, we're talking about 2,000 feet to 4,000 feet from the
Yeah.
exit, at least our frontage. So it's very convenient for,
Yeah.
if that is to be stationed there.
And have you considered any retail or restaurants or anything?
No, I've learned that if you're not good at, don't venture into. But I am. We live in Texas. We have a summer home in Sheffield, Vermont. Here, that's where we are at this moment. We are actually building a warehouse. So there's another concept. I don't want to overload the sometimes when trying to say, oh, I'm going to do this, do that, one is you overpromise, and secondly, it confuses the key issues. But there is a possibility that there's a new concept, what they call flex space, which is basically you have, I mean, we'll build 15,000 square feet. One-story structure, and it's flexible in the sense that if someone wants to lease 3,000 feet, you can do, or 5,000 feet, because the space is flexible. And secondly, it will be easy to convert from warehouse or office. So someone may be, I want 50% office, 50% warehouse. It can be done, or 100% office, or 100% warehouse. So it's very flexible, and especially in a new location, because you're building and you're hoping tenants will come. So the first building, and maybe you plan for different phase, but first just one, and you wait and see that if, so that's another possibility, is that we may, because we have a very large frontage, and we may in certain sections, again, but you will need GD4 instead of R1 or R2.
Yeah.
And that could be a possibility, so that we can have that also. But that is secondary. And
I'm always looking for revenue sources, for Colchester and the state. So I'm always thinking of
Right.
people charging their cars, eating in a restaurant,
Right.
Buying products,
Right.
Just
right.
generating.
Yes, I mean, since you are in the climate committee, I'll throw one more. Again, I don't want to confuse the issue, and is I believe that when we have access electricity from the solar farm, and we usually have to sell to the net, net billing to Green Mountain Power or whoever. Okay, and usually it's a very low rate. Okay, if there is a gap between, if someone come in, another potential development client that you want to encourage and bring into exit 17 to develop, okay, they want to come. And if they are a heavy energy user, okay, and the commercial rate that Green Mountain will charge, and if there is a gap between what they normally will be, and as long as, since I'm selling to Green Mountain anyway, that whatever they set the rates, so 8 cents or whatever, I'm just putting out a number. And if the commercial rate is 15 cents or whatever, then I think we, as an additional incentive for future, to attract future development, is, hey, we have discounted electric power available, and especially in the summertime. And maybe when someone's looking at multiple locations, I mean, South Burlington, whatever, they may find, whoa, I'll pick this because it will save us 100,000 whatever a year, and so that will also help attract future development potential customers. So that's another possibility. But again, I don't want to, because there may not be a gap. I have no idea. But if there is, I think there will be a gap. And then something can work out where the solar farm can earn a few cents more and they get a 20% discount, which could be a sizable incentive for someone, especially heavy electric user. So that's another angle that we can, down the road, if we...
Well, anyway, I'm just speaking for myself, I'm about 5 members on the board, but first of all, I just want to thank you for being so innovative and forward-thinking, because I think we need more of this. It's, 20 years from now, 30 years from now, they'll probably be all what you're talking about. Even though it's a new idea to us, they'll be everywhere. I would be supportive, again, balancing,
Understood. And I'll work...
the capacity.
Sure. I mean, I'll work with the city and with Vermont Transport to make it work, mindful of traffic and all those other issues, and I'm more than happy to.
Kathy Ann, your arm is
Oh,
up.
sorry.
That's all right.
I just wanted to, since Sarita had brought it up, I just want to remind you, and again, I don't mean this to question anyone's motives, absolutely not, but I do want to remind you when you look at a zoning, as I give you every time, sometimes you hear one particular use and it can seem very intriguing. I just wanted to remind you when you look at a zoning change, even if it's an area where you're supportive of the change or the work, that you're not doing it for one particular use, that you do it for a whole slew of uses. If this area was, or this particular site were to be rezoned and it was no longer of interest or viable for this particular use, wanted to remind you that there's a great deal number of uses allowed in the GD4, and they may not be what you have in mind at the moment. You could be seeing without picking on a particular establishment, a fast food restaurant with a big M out front, or the next Starbucks, or a shipping facility sitting right in the backyard of a residential neighborhood. These are all allowed uses in the GD4. So I ask that you keep that in mind, not just now, but anytime you look at a rezoning, because again, anything that's an allowed use would then become an allowed use with a zoning change. And it may not be the exact thing you had in mind when you were thinking about it. And GD4 has a very wide range of uses.
I was just wondering when the town plan, when we're up for looking at the town plan again.
So we are due to have a full renewal by 2027, which means that we're probably, I'm a conservative person in terms of making sure I have enough time, kicking it off by 2024, next year.
Wow.
Doing some of the background work now. I talk to you guys often about some things, but really start lightly in 2024 so that in 2025 we're really doing a lot of stuff, and 2026 hopefully working towards a wrap-up.
Okay.
Okay. I would say, keeping that in mind, what you just said about GD4, that it's not just this use, which I agree. I like the use that you're presenting, but not so much the other GD4 uses in this area. I'm very concerned about spot zoning. We do not like that. And unfortunately, your parcel is right between two residential developments, and then to the south is a state park, so it's very rural. It's going to stay open, and you're kind of caught between that and Route 2. So to me, it's going to be a big spot zoning that it's going to be hard for us, I think, to get over that. The other thing I wondered, have you surveyed the land? Have you looked at it for how you're going to access it?
Yeah, there's a survey of the parcel,
boundary line, though, but I'm talking about surveying it
and
because
topography and
soils, ledge,
right.
how you're going to
Yeah, I mean,
access the site.
It's a catch-22 issue in the sense that if I know that this is viable, and also to address GD4, I think it has a lot of. I don't mind if there's agreement that is restrictions. These are things you don't. I have no problem if I have no intention to do something strange or crazy that really contrary to the neighborhood's kind of character. And I don't know whether the issue is you already grant GD4 north of 2 and to the side. Actually, I know there's a strip of residential, but next to, I think, Liquid Bay Road is also GD4, I believe. So I hope they don't do those things that I guess Kathy was concerned about. But I'm more than willing to. I have no intention of what they call the phrase switch and bait and switch. Can you basically say something good and then end up doing is not my intention. And I'm happy to accept reasonable restrictions that I want to develop in healthy and proper manner. And so I know spot change is usually planning committee front upon, but
Well, I don't know the history of Route 2. I know he's correct that Jasper Mine Road used to be the old Route 2. What I don't know is, did that development precede our development regulations? Because
I
they've
don't
been there
know.
for a long time.
I don't know specific to this one. I know it's fairly common across Colchester for zoning to represent what's there more so than what's desired. It's not uncommon to come across that. I don't know if that's actually the case here. I could look into it if you'd like, but I don't know the history of the zoning on the north side of Route 2 there. But there are, I think I've got an image hanging. There are some scattered sort of mix of industrial, commercial, retail mixed in there. But again, I don't know. I think that this neighborhood here was built, I looked it up, maybe in the mid-90s. But please don't quote me on that.
I don't know. I didn't even know it was there, really, to be honest
Yeah.
with you. I always go down the other road. So
To the park.
That one, and further down where you go into the park, yeah.
Yeah, down here.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, not there. Right.
Yeah, well, where
Raymond
the
Road.
green little thing
Yeah.
with the, that's the
Yeah,
parking lot at the end there.
yeah.
So I'm concerned about access. I mean, residential, the access, as you pointed out to me, Kathy Ann, is that it'd be off that Colden Drive.
I think if you can't get it off Route 2, there's, you may know this, I believe there's an approved site plan for just a couple residential units on the site. Does that sound at all familiar?
I saw that there is the prior owner
Yeah.
were thinking of, I guess, phase 2 of that development, and he gave me actually the layout, all the information,
Yeah.
and say, hey, if you're interested, take it for. So but
Yeah, I think,
I purchased it not to develop. I mean, not for residential.
I understand.
Right. I need usually for solar farm you need a large space, and you need sufficient barrier to kind of a green space between the residential and so. And it's not like those windmill thing. I mean, whereas solar, if it's further enough, the trees, they probably won't even know it's not eyesore. They probably
Yeah,
won't
no,
notice.
my only point that I was trying to make is that I believe when they were looking at permitting that, they were not able to get a V-Trans access. They were instead told that the only access they could have is through this neighborhood. There's a spur that
The
is
Colden,
intended.
right, the
Yeah,
side
off of Colden,
right.
there's I think it's just about here. It doesn't show up very well up there, but there is a spur that was put in as part in this development to provide access here. And I believe when that application was reviewed by the local board, the direction was the access was from Colden, not from Route 2.
Right, well, what I recall is there's a lot of ledge along Route 2 and on this side.
Yeah, I think it shows up in some of the imagery.
Yeah, that's what I remember seeing. That might be another reason why V-Trans doesn't see any access to this site off Route 2. I think that's my comments. My biggest hurdle is the spot zoning. Wendy, do you have anything to add?
I was just curious to see, like, this proposal, what would be the amount of traffic that would be going in and out? Like, how many employees would be working at this place if it,
You
the
mean-
traffic would be the cars going in and charging,
Mhm.
but is there,
You mean the vehicle count, or you mean what you?
just, like, what, would this employ a lot of people, this venture?
Well, there is two main pieces, forgetting about other warehouse or
Mhm.
whatever. The supercharge station, that's one. And you need, because it's 24 hour,
Yeah.
7 days. So you need, and depending on the technology, the maintenance, and so there will be certain staffs. I don't know whether it's 2, 3, 4, 5. It all depends on whether there's another analysis need to be done. Is would that come with a convenience store? Whether it be just like a gas station of the future where people will drop in and pick up something. And so if that's the case, it probably would double the employment. And then there's maintenance of the solar farm, which usually is not a full-time, but it will employ service around the area because it needs to be maintained. It's a large area. And need to be clean. So it will enhance employment. This, and these are green-based employment. So I hope that's the best. It really,
Yeah,
it will depend on a lot of things in the future.
Considering the cars that would be coming in
Right,
and out
yeah.
of there for charging, but that's a feasible, I assume?
Oh, yeah, I think if, assuming that this was zoned today for a use that allowed that, one of the first things that would happen in any sort of development review is to look at a traffic management plan, an access plan, and that would include getting a count of vehicle turning movements and determining whether or not that's possible on any given road. It's standard with any review. And often it's either there are conditions associated with it, improvements that need to be made, or it's just not granted. But it's usually the first thing in a review and in a project that can generate significant traffic.
Thank you.
Yeah, Sarita?
So just in my ignorance, so I'm just gonna just throw this out there, like, so what if there was an intersection there with a light, so that people could go right or left into that? I'm just saying, if that's a possibility. And does it have to, is there any way to make it conditional that in terms of the zoning, in terms of the spot zoning, if it's a, a business that is green, is energy friendly or supportive, or something like that when we do the town plan, is there any way we can kind of support industries that, whose goal is to lower greenhouse gas emissions? I'm just asking, I know this may be
Yeah, I
right out, but I just wonder if this is, like if we're looking 20 years ahead, are we able to look that far ahead to see?
I just want to separate your questions into
Yep.
to two, just to say
So
that.
you know what my committee is with.
Just to say that, spot zoning applies in any case where you are looking at a single parcel and you're not necessarily looking at an area, necessarily, and regardless of the uses within it. But I think to address your second question, which I think was maybe more important to you, is, what incentives can be given to certain, types of uses. And I think that one opportunity you may have is to create a new use. This use, as Mr. Ng has said, is most closely correlated with a gas station use right now. We don't have a use that specifically refers to any sort of vehicle charging that's separate from, that's separate from that other use. So one thing you could potentially do on the whole, whether it's that would apply to more than just this property or this zone, is to create a new use and say, this is something that we don't want to see as many barriers to, and we would like it to be its own use, and we would like to decide which districts it's allowed in. And that, I think, is a solution, is a potential option, I'll rephrase, allows you to pull it out as its own use and away from all of the others. So if there are areas where there are a more limited amount of uses allowed, then this could be one of those that is allowed in different types of zones than a gas station would be allowed. I'm not necessarily saying I advocate for that, but as an option, I'm not saying I don't either, just to be clear, but as an option, you could create a use, a separate standalone use for this type of vehicle charging, and you could decide that these are the zones we would like to allow it in, either as a permitted use or a conditional use, like certain other things are that are sort of favored by the town or by municipalities in general. You will often see certain uses that are seen as a community good. Daycares, for example, obviously religious institutions tend to be allowed in more districts than their commercial counterparts. So did that help at all, Sarita?
No, it helped a lot.
I think,
It helped a lot. I mean, I like you said, I mean, I think this is a long term, there's a lot of hurdles, but, I'm thinking of the town plan, if, again, not changing it because of this, but again, re-looking at where we are kind of currently in many different uses. But I just would hate to just say no to this without getting more information, but, trying to, without, again, impacting the capacity of your office. So, balancing it out, that we're slowly working towards getting some more information about this. But I think we have two members not present, and I certainly would want to hear their voices as well. But that is really helpful, what the second part that you...
Yeah, and again, your options for that is to either discuss it as part of your town plan, as future updates in terms of regulations, or again, I mean, I bring you very long lists of supplements, it's not just my lists, obviously. If there's ever anything you wish to pursue as a commission, you just got to tell me and we can look at things. I know the use table, and actually I think it was on our last meeting, the conditional uses, I think, is on my list
talked about that.
of things to look at because they are very overused.
Okay. Well, you brought a lot of discussion to our commission here. I think there's a strong opinion that we don't like spot zoning, but it sounds like there may be an option that we define a new use and we decide as a commission how we want to use that use. And I think we'll end up having further discussion on this, so there's no answer tonight.
That's okay. I'm not expecting, but I just want to be here to at least you can see the person and the sincerity, and I'm more than willing to work with the planning committee, with Kathy and Vermont Transmit, hopefully something good will come out and overall will be beneficial to the people of Colchester.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
So we need to take an action?
You don't have to. I think it's more about direction. You can take a vote if you'd like. You can provide direction to me. You can simply say, hey, we may circle back around on this, but we don't yet know what form it'll take or the time it will be, but we're not dismissing it, out of hand.
So we can table it for future discussion?
Yeah, if you'd like to.
Okay. I think that's what we'll end up doing. A lot to think about. Okay. If there's not anything else,
Is this can we exit?
you can exit unless you have more to say. You can.
Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for coming and talking to us.
Very exciting.
Okay. Thank you and good night.
Good night.
Good night.
No problem. So next on the agenda was number 5, was the discussion for Supplement 46. And we decided we're going to table that for the next meeting, once we have more information and hopefully more members.
Probably a bigger list, I'm sorry. It'll look worse than it actually is, though, I promise you.
Okay.
Some of these are very small and very simple.
That's what you said last time.
A lot of them were.
So item 6 is informational items and staff updates.
Yeah.
You want to start in on that, Kathy?
As soon as I can read what I wrote. Let's see. Yeah, so I did want to let you know that I didn't put a date. I believe it was May 22nd. Kathy Walker O'Reilly, who is our Economic Development Officer, and I attended a meeting of the Vermont Downtown Development Board for renewal approval of our new town center. Our new town center, as a reminder, is the southwest quadrant. That's the one that's mostly built out by SD Ireland, McGillicuddy's, if that helps to orient you. So that is our new town center. You cannot have a growth center without either a new town center, village center, or downtown. So we don't get that. We don't have a growth center. So it was very critical for us to get this approved. We had a wonderful meeting that we addressed some, I think, excellent questions, and it was approved. So we are good for that. I have to read my notes here. Until 2030. Longer than our town plan, so it was very exciting. We will have to do a renewal or a check-in at some point, and then a renewal of our larger growth center. But for now, breathing a little sigh of relief on this one, and then we'll come back with the growth center work next, I think, by next year. Sooner than I think, but
Okay.
yeah. So we were very excited about that. I just wanted to just share with you quickly, because sometimes it's fun to sort of geek out about planning stuff. So I wrote this from Charlotte, North Carolina. I was attending a really wonderful conference. There's a group of mixed professions that participate in the Congress for New Urbanism. Their founding principles are sort of about creating, what do they call it? Creating places people want to live, I think is sort of their tagline. And it's usually a mix of predominantly architects, some people who are in the transportation, especially pedestrian transportation fields, and planners. And they get together once a year and talk about all kinds of cool new urbanist stuff. The idea of new urbanism is recreating sort of a lot of what was done and the good parts of what was done in, you know, the 40s, 50s, 60s, where lots were smaller, houses were close and comfortable, and things were oriented to, you know, walkways and sidewalks, and created some lasting places. So this conference was really cool. Had some amazing keynote speakers. There was some, you know, climate resiliency work that was presented on how planning affects climate resiliency. Everything from like heat islands that get created with too much parking to how planning for parks is critical in climate change, and sort of a really fascinating discussion about what local planning can do as opposed to large-scale federal interventions. And it was a really fascinating report. I have to email it to you guys. The keynote speaker was amazing. I cannot remember her name. But she really made that link between planning, local planning especially, and sort of resiliency in a very practical, makes sense kind of way that I think appeals to people who are afraid of the very big changes or the expensive changes, or that we must build 9 million solar panels, and focuses more on like just how we design places. And so I thought that was really interesting. Was largely found this appealing because of the form-based code focuses. Anytime you get together with a group of new urbanist architects, you're going to talk form-based codes. Everything from some really radical ideas. There are a few communities that are using pre-approved plans, like house and building plans, and basically they are buying them from architectural firms, depending on how much money they have, 10 types, 20, 50, 100 types. And if you build one of those that the municipality owns, you get like a 3-day review process. It's easier than getting a fence. So the appeal is that this is pre-approved, and you can do it as long as you do one of these ones we've already said is good, as far as like doors and windows. And I think they described it as, you know, it's sort of like an a la carte option, or like a 5-course dinner option, where, you know, you can have very basic buildings versus talking about very specific fenestration and stuff. So there are a few communities in the country that are sort of rolling that out. Saying Colchester is at all ready for anything like that, but it's an intriguing idea to see where the future of form-based coding could go. I think that one of the communities they cited was Spokane, Washington. I think they've, and it's not mandatory. It is purely an option if you want to fast track your approvals. So I thought that was really interesting. I don't know what it costs the community to pre-buy this many plans. But it was new. I'd never heard of that. Had you ever heard of that, Rebecca?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, I
I
know. I
find
think
it
it's
intriguing.
I think it's very, very new. Like, I think they could talk about less than 10 cases in the country. It's so new.
Wow.
Yeah, it was interesting. So,
Is that in one of these books?
no, no, but there were people that were like selling some of their plan sets.
I bet.
And actually, I didn't think they were too badly priced. I mean, they were like $60 a building or something.
Wow.
I don't know what that got you, if that was like here's the basic ideas of this building, but if you want the floor plans, it's going to cost you an extra lot.
Well, you also have to take those plans and take it to your, zoning and to this, here in our state,
Yeah.
public safety, and make sure, you can,
Yeah, and your engineer too, because what
Change,
are the
yeah.
chances in Vermont that you're putting it on a flat piece of land?
yeah. It's not just the plans you're buying.
So it was interesting. Hopefully I'll have some more to share with you. I just returned this week, so I didn't have too much to put together, but
Oh, yeah, but if you could put together a little quick presentation of
Yeah,
what
I will.
you learned and what you gleaned
Sure.
from it, that'd be great.
some really interesting things, some really interesting people. And I think my biggest takeaway is that communities of all sizes are having the same issues. They're just on a different scale.
Which is what, I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you.
Oh, just that they're all a lot of us are having the same issues, just on different scales.
Under discuss.
Everything from like, how do we make sure people have the space to park without creating enormous parking lots? How do we, make sure that our designs are nice, not just because they look nice, but because they tend to last a little bit longer. Watched a really fascinating, there's a guy that does a blog called Revitalize or Die. But basically, he makes the argument that pretty places last longer because people want to take care of them. It's an interesting argument, but he's got some neat thoughts out there. So it's good, and hopefully by next time I can share a little more visuals with you as well. Had a lot of great takeaways. Some really a lot of interesting just tie-ins. Everything from like equity. I sat down accidentally and was talking to this guy at a table. And found out as I was talking to him, he was like the mayor pro tem of the city of Charlotte, and I wouldn't have guessed it, mostly because he was probably 10 years younger than me, but also because he was dressed fairly casual and looked like he was more likely to, and very athletic, more likely to maybe go play a game of football than lead a city council meeting. But fascinating, and he shared his story about how he got involved in politics because of, some of the diversity and race challenges that the city was facing at the time. And it was just really, really interesting, but how he connected that with, how you design places and stuff. So, great conference.
Nice.
Anyway, moving on.
Of course you can ask a question.
So when you do the presentation, can you also just point out what are some things you really like the 5 top ideas?
Oh, of course, yeah.
And maybe the 5 ideas that you would be concerned about or that didn't seem to make sense to you.
Yeah, I think that, the biggest disconnect for me is that there are a lot of people who have really great ideas, but nobody seems to understand, and some of this is you do work outside of Vermont or even maybe New England. There are a lot of communities that they don't regulate wetlands. They don't necessarily regulate a lot of certain resources, and so they can't, and they're flat land. So everything that looks brilliant and beautiful on a piece of paper isn't necessarily going to work here because we have wetlands and we have endangered species and of plants and topography and hills and so you can see a lot of stuff that looks gorgeous and it's hard to adapt. The other thing I think I take away is that you can have this great idea for sort of this nice, denser urban cores or even some infill of some small some small neighborhoods. But without sewer capacity, it's a pipe dream. Even if everyone loves it, you still need a way to treat the sewage that's being created. And there's limited capacity with on-site septic. But I did talk to a few people who were also in similar, communities, and basically said that what they're really working on is trying to figure out, if you have somebody who comes in with a 50-acre parcel, and they're like, well, we can only fit 10 on here because that's what our capacity is for sewer, to work with them to say, do you really want to take up this entire thing with your 10 units, and you're never going to be able to add more because you've spread it out in such a way that your roads and your sidewalks and your driveways and your houses and their backyards are taking up all 50 acres of that? Or can we find a way that we're planning for the future and saying those 10 shouldn't consume all of that? We should bring them in so that at such a time, if we're already agreeing that the whole land can be used, let's bring them in so that in the future, if there is advances in on-site septic or there is municipal sewer provided, that we haven't preempted that. We haven't precluded that from happening, which I thought was really fascinating. I've never really thought through that. So I think there's some cons to that, of course, but I think it would be a very good conversation to have as a planning commission, because it's not an easy question. But, the idea of sort of planning ahead and saying, let's not use it all right now, may have some appeal to at least talk about. Because I do believe that we'll see advancements in, even if it's just treating on-site septic, so that we're not precluding. Again, if you're going to build on the 50 acres, you're already going to take it out of your forest blocks or your wildlife corridors. You're already making it used. Are we using it efficiently? Do we want to use it more efficiently? Maybe you don't. Maybe you're like, 10 on 50 sounds perfect. There's no need for more ever. I don't know. But at least to have the discussion.
A lot of times it's the developer making the calls.
Yeah, unless, as a planning commission, you write the rules that say,
Right, but
you
most
must
of the time
cluster.
it's the bottom line is,
Yeah.
it's the numbers going to work for them.
Well, hopefully it appeals to them because the numbers mean that ultimately they're going to get more in the end. They just have to be a little patient.
Yeah, and you would think that.
I don't know if I've ever met a patient developer, though. So.
No. You would think also the home buyers, if they were more in a secluded area and the rest was park area, that was their park area.
Absolutely.
It'd be a big selling point. Anyway,
Yeah. So.
off topic here.
Yeah. So I think it brought a lot of thoughts and even some things I'd never really thought about. Lastly, one cool thing that I'd heard from the climate expert was she said she doesn't like the term global warming. Because she's like, then everyone thinks that if you're not warming, you're not global warming. So she called it global weirding, which I thought was awesome. Because she just thought it didn't turn people off. And maybe had a few people who were in less denial of it. I don't know. I don't hear new things a lot, but that one was new to me and I kind of liked it. Global weirding. Anyway. So there is a planning and zoning report. We do these every month. I don't always remember to give them to you. But when I do, here they are. The nice thing about this one from May is that it's only 1 month shy of the full fiscal year, so you can get an idea of our year-to-date numbers. I think the takeaway is that we're doing less permits and less building this year than we were even last year. It surprises me a little bit, but it doesn't take much to throw the numbers off. You get one 60-unit building out at Severance Corners, and the numbers can be really skewed. We just don't do enough that a little bit can't change it. So don't read into it too deeply. And that's it.
I like those reports, and I noticed that, about how little, I think more commercial development little commercial development.
We've had none.
Yeah, that's, I mean, I'm like looking at South Burlington and Williston, I'm like going, what's going on? Like,
Yeah.
anyway, I'm just curious. It's not like I have any thoughts about it. The only question I had was about the school district. I'm just curious. I'm not like, just about the putting in about 4 or 5 more fields, it looked like.
Oh, I don't know.
Oh, on
You know more
Laker-
than I do.
On Laker Lane. It was right at the end. It was the last thing at the end. I thought.
Oh,
And I
okay.
just was curious where they're going to be, where the fields are going to be. But
I don't know. Zach put the notes section together for me because I was out of town, but I assume they're at that entranceway. You guys know the property much better than I do, I'm
I-
sure.
I don't know. I was just curious where.
I missed that one.
Yeah.
I missed that one. I didn't get all the way to the end.
Is it in the little box with the notes?
It's at the very end of the report.
The last one.
Oh, on the,
Colchester Planning Zoning Department monthly report. Let's see.
Construction of 5 athletic fields, including 4 multi-use fields and a baseball diamond, Laker Lane,
Oops, wait, it's in this movie.
12.9 acres.
let's see.
Acres disturbed, 36.9.
Oh, are you, oh, okay. You're on the,
Yep. I'm not.
50% of it's complete. Boy, it doesn't
Yeah.
ring a bell with me.
it's on the last page.
Yeah,
Yep.
I was just curious about where they're, I'm excited because I love athletic fields.
Yeah, I don't know.
Baseball.
I don't know. These are, I don't remember this one in
It
front
might
of the
be
DRB.
across from the high school, Laker Lane. The
Yeah.
The
That's what I
high
was
school is on the left, on the right is a lot of fields.
Yeah. I
And
know
that's where it's
Amy, when
going in.
she was in here with us 2 months ago or so, mentioned something about that and then potentially a new building, an administrative services building or something up front.
Anyway, don't waste time
Yeah.
on that. It just, I was
Yeah, I don't know. I hadn't seen that one either.
just curious.
I'm not familiar with it. I'm sorry.
It's all right.
Okay, anything else on the report? Okay, if not, I'm going to talk about our schedule for the Planning
Did you
Commission.
guys note that we have 2 interns who have started? That's
Yep.
very exciting. Sorry, just wanted to point that out. They will be joining me at a future meeting, maybe in July. So you will meet them, just like you
Okay.
did Jake before.
Great.
Look forward to it.
Yeah, they're great. So meeting schedule, I think it doesn't look any different than the last one we talked about,
Okay, so our next meeting would be July
18th.
18th. So we're skipping the
4th.
second meeting this month
The second, yes,
and the July 4th meeting.
yes.
Okay. All right. Then we have the minutes from our last meeting on May 16th. What I need is a motion to approve.
I motion to approve.
A second.
Any discussion? No? All in favor to pass? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. That's easy. There's not anything else. I'll say it's 8:15 and meeting's adjourned. I don't need to make a motion for that, do I? Or do I?
You don't have to, but you
I
guys
do.
usually
Okay, I'm saying I do. I need a motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting's over.